This is the PC Perspective Mailbag. This is episode number 46. Can't believe we're on 46 already. Getting close to being a year in on the mailbag. We've been promising that for years and finally delivered. Took a while. This is being recorded for June 1st, 2018. Still amazed it's 2018. Didn't seem like 1998 was that long ago. But we can go over that some other day. This is where we answer your questions, so either email them in, or probably the easiest way is comment on this video that you're looking at. We will gather questions for next week. You can also tweet at Ryan Shrout or myself or Jim Tanuous. I can't remember what Jim's Twitter is, but maybe just do it at Ryan when he asks for questions. And the first one is Alal Balale. Which DDR4 RAM specification is better? 2400 megahertz at CL17 or 2133 at CL14? How significant is latency over frequency? It's fairly significant. In many things that will be more latency bound, CL14 at 2133 is going to be faster. It's going to be fewer milliseconds, nanoseconds to get that data from memory. But if you're doing anything that requires streaming that will require the extra bandwidth, then the CL17 at 2400 isn't bad. But it's really going to depend on what you want to do, what kind of benchmarks you really want to accentuate, what applications you're going to be running. Something that requires a ton of memory bandwidth is not going to show the difference in a higher latency in most applications, but you have certain other applications, such as games, that will get data a little bit quicker to the CPU and will have a better overall performance because it can access that data more quickly, and it doesn't rely on just streaming loads and loads of bandwidth. So you need to take a look at your applications, what you usually use the most, and what you want to accentuate. But otherwise, something like CL17 at 3200, that's very close, I think, to CL14 at 2133, in terms of overall latency, because your frequency is going up. And even though there's more, ticks in terms of latency, because the speed is so much higher, the actual nanoseconds will be lower, or milliseconds. I can't remember which. I think it's milli. My brain is mush. It's late on a Thursday, and this is late, and Jim is going to kill me. Go figure. So anyway, it's if you can do CL13 4 to 17 at 3200, you're going to be getting the best of both worlds. So good luck. Trolling for dollars. Is it possible to connect my PC with dual NICs to both my LAN with internet and my security camera system while preventing the cameras from accessing the internet? Yes, I imagine so. It depends on what IP address you give your second NIC that your camera system. Also, you need to adjust. If you don't put in a gateway in the settings, disable any kind of DHCP. Yeah, you'd have to. I don't think like Windows 10 desktop, you're not going to be able to do DHCP serving on it. You'd have to get a Linux distro or whatever. But I would imagine that you just set the IP address for that second NIC, and you have a subnet running on that's your security system, and you just don't give it a gateway to go to the internet. I could be speaking about this wrong, but I don't think so. You can have multiple IP addresses on a single machine if you got multiple NICs addressing different areas. So yeah, it's just whatever software you're using, you'll have to aim it in the right direction, but you should be able to kind of firewall it off a little bit. Go from there. Anyhow, JJ, how, if at all, can NVIDIA's upcoming 1100 series of cards lower the prices of current cards available on the market? Will NVIDIA take crypto mining into consideration when making pricing and production decisions, or should people expect a repeat of the recent product shortages and insane prices? Well, we don't quite know yet. I mean, we can make guesses. The 1100 series, when they come out, then people will start wanting to sell off stock of, first it'll be the higher end 1070s, 1080s, 1080 Ti's, because when we get released these new products, they always go the top end first. So we'll see a price adjustment on those. The mid-range and low are probably going to stay somewhat put for the short time until NVIDIA starts releasing mid-range and then more budget-oriented cards. But you'll only see kind of an improvement in prices on the 1000 series once the top end gets there, released in the 1100 series. Am I making any sense? I doubt it. So anyway, will NVIDIA take crypto mining into consideration when making pricing and production decisions? I think they already are. They've cut back on production of the 1000 series already. I don't even know if they're still being produced. They probably are. And will be for a couple of months until they really get the 1100 production rolling. We don't know anything yet about the 1100 series. Obviously, there's a lot of guessing out there. I mean, we have the Volta 100, the V100, that is kind of the top end machine or card. It's made on 12 nanometer TSMC, and that's only though for big business, big money. That's their Tesla stuff. So and they do have that out in a standalone card, but that's a $5,000 card. It's ludicrous. But what we can figure out is that coin mining is going back down in popularity just because all the prices have fallen dramatically, and it doesn't make as much sense to spend the money on the video cards and then spend money on electricity and cooling and just mine, because everything is just slowly nosing down. So we're seeing better availability. We're seeing prices get to MSRP in certain circumstances. And, this has been a learning experience for AMD and NVIDIA, and they will adjust their production depending on where they see demand, because it's not like they're making a huge amount of extra money per chip as the prices go up, because that's primarily the retailers and the OEMs, the board producers. They gather most of the extra profits and fatter margins from those products rather than NVIDIA. I mean, NVIDIA, they're still making 64% margins on their product, which is astounding. I mean, AMD's barely touching 40%. So they're making some good scratch. But we'll see what it does. We'll see what the capabilities are. We'll see if NVIDIA aims their products more at mining or AI or machine learning. We'll see what the desktop brings. Dubes and Hauer. How old is too old for a computer? I've been using a Haswell i5 overclocked to 5 gigahertz for many years. One of these days it will fail, but for now it satisfies my computing needs. When should you start to consider a preemptive upgrade of your core platform? That's a really good question these days, because we have not seen the amounts of performance increases over the past 10 years that we have experienced in the past. I mean, I know people who are still using their i7 920s. That was a great platform. It still performs pretty well. We have a lot of guys with the 2600, 2500 series. My wife's still using a 3770K. It does great for everything that she does. I guess what you need to look out for, and again, we're going back to what applications you're running, where are you seeing issues, and how worried are you about security? Because with Spectre Meltdown, a lot of these older products are just not getting updated. I mean, you get the software fix, but anything in the firmware or microcode is not going to be updated by Intel or the partners. And so you kind of look at what you're doing, how it's running. For me, like last year, I had to upgrade my main machine, but that was because my FX8350 was just plain dying. Well, actually, the motherboard that was running it was dying, and I really didn't have any more AM3 boards handy to swap in, and I figured if I was going to make a change, I might as well just get a new board and a new CPU and be happy with that. And so far I have been. I got an i7 7700K. Runs great. Everything seems fine. But yeah, once you start getting a little hardware instability, once you start looking at other things like NVMe SSDs, if you got an AMD machine, go for an AM4 product with the new 2000 series. That was a tremendous upgrade from any AMD previous processor of the FX series. So there you go. There you have it. It's up to you, and it's up to stability of the machine. But if it does everything you want it to do and it has all the features you need, there's no need to really upgrade, or no real reason to for the past couple of years. Cosmic Tachyon. Why does Windows 10 not get along with some old games like Fallout 3 without hacks and mods? It's just a modern operating system, and certain things in DX and just the kernel do not always get along with older games. Windows 10 is a much more secure OS in terms of, compartmentalizing and making more stable. And you've got, certain DOS games and, older games that either require software that's never been updated or is no longer available on your machines. I mean, try to get the original Quake 2 and install that from disk, and you're asking for trouble. It wants to try to install all kinds of crap, and modern OS is not going to like it. So you're better off getting something from GOG or on Steam, because typically they at least update things to make sure it runs on Steam, especially if they're charging for it. I didn't realize that Fallout 3 was not working. I know that there was... I think I tried to install that a while back, and it did. It puked all over. Go figure. Cataclysma. Have you ever used Linux on your personal machine? If so, what did or didn't you like about the experience? Some years back, I did attempt Linux on more of a work machine. I bought a SUSE 8, and this really ages it. It's a long time ago. Also tried SUSE 9. I've set up, servers with Linux, and what else? Why can't I think of the other OS name? FreeBSD. So if you're going for command line and you know what you're doing, that's great. I think that the problem comes from when you're going into a GUI environment and you're trying to get certain things to work, and it doesn't always do so. I mean, it's one thing to have a Microsoft environment where people work pretty hard to be compatible. Open source stuff, they usually don't have the time to make sure it runs on everything. And so the issues I ran into were, trying to actually load up some games and wine. I mean, you gotta do a lot of work to get those things going. Regular applications, sometimes even video playback's a pain in the butt. It was just there was enough niggling little problems that I just didn't have the time to really go through. You get guys like Van from the Linux Gamecast. And that's his passion and hobby, is getting crap to work, and he's an expert at it, and he's great. Me, I just don't have the desire or the time to really dig in for the desktop. So, I'm kind of stuck in the Windows environment. There are things that I don't like about Windows, things I don't like about the privacy and security that Microsoft does, and but at the same time, I like to be able to do my work. I like to be able to play games easily. So it's again, it's going to depend on the user and what they're interested in doing and how much work they're wanting to put in. Decominatum. Do we have any reliable data or studies to show the long-term reliability of indium solder versus thermal paste for use between the CPU dies and heat spreaders? Ever since this Ivy Bridge, I only see vague assumptions being thrown around. There are some studies out there, and they don't show a huge difference from what I understand. In theory, thermal paste can break down easier over time, while solder will not. I mean, solder is just going to give you that good thermal connection the whole time. But at the same time, with a thermal paste, I mean, Intel has spent billions of dollars on making sure that their CPUs run as well as they can and as long as they can, reliably. And they're still pretty convinced that thermal paste, the way that the one that they use, is good. And if you kind of think about it, it's a mostly sealed environment under that heat spreader. I mean, they've got kind of a little hole in there to allow them some thermal expansion. But it's not like you've got a big old chunk of thermal paste sitting kind of out in the open with just a fan sitting on top, and eventually it dries out. The stuff that they use, it's a little bit higher quality. It's got properties where, it still is a good thermal conductor even after it's well cured and after years and years. But I mean, if you're running a not great cooling solution and that thermal paste is not as efficient as solder, eventually your CPU could die a heat death. I mean, it could take years and years to do it, but eventually it might become less reliable, and eventually maybe not even start at all, but that depends, and it doesn't happen very, very often. I think you're probably more likely to swap out PCs than your CPU dying a heat death, unlike the old K62. Yeah. Ryan Henschel, Josh. No, wait, Dylan 522P. Why do you live where you do? PCPer HQ is already in an odd location, but Josh is out in the middle of nowhere. That's right, I'm in Wyoming. We've got a total population, I think, under 650,000 people. The land size is the 9th largest state in the union. I've got great outdoor activities all around: hiking, camping, fishing, hunting, skiing. All of these things are very, very close to me. It takes me 5 minutes to get to the other end of town. I've still got plenty of decent restaurants and shopping places and things that do around here that they keep me entertained. I just like living in a smaller state. There's like no traffic around here. It's fantastic. I hate traffic and I hate lots of people. I know I seem really, really outgoing, but when I'm not in front of a camera, I'm pretty damn quiet and I keep to myself. Crazy, I know. But I love living where I do. We've got great seasons. Summers are unbeatable. Winters are a little long, a little harsh, but builds character, I guess. Now, Rye Henschel. Josh, I know you like going out for burgers, but any tips for making a great burger at home? Use good beef. Season it while actually making the patties. Sometimes adding a little egg into the mix really helps hold things together and, gives a little flavor advantage there. Pepper is always really good, so I'm a big fan of that. A nice hot charcoal grill will probably give you the best flavor. You can use gas. Gas is easier, but we actually used one of those copper mats to do burgers on, and that works really, really well. It keeps flare-ups from popping up and gives you a really nice even temperature throughout the burger. So a lot of it is just in the preparation, making sure your grill is good, and don't be afraid to turn them over. A lot of people say, well, you only turn meat over once. Well, that doesn't work for me. I think that you get a more even and consistent heat throughout the burger if you flip it more often. I mean, you don't do it every 30 seconds, but, you sit there and you drink a beer and you watch what you're doing and you watch it and you flip it over and you just see what you like and then taste the end product and see what you think of it, and then adjust your cooking next time with the things that you've learned. Eventually you're going to get a burger that you're really going to like. So, sometimes chopping onions, sometimes a little garlic, but yeah, always use a little seasoning salt and pepper and some other seasonings, maybe a little chili powder now and then. but grind that into the beef and form them into patties and go to town. Charcoal tastes best. Trolling for dollars. Josh, Ryan didn't know last week, so asking again, how often do you polish your head? Well, I shave my head once a week, whether it needs it or not. And usually it needs it because it looks really, really terrible by the end of that week. This polish is, I come by that natural. Look at that. Look at that glare. I probably should get some, like, baby powder or something someday, and then I'd look like I'm a Japanese kabuki player, and it just is, it's going to be grim. But, yeah, that is the show. We are at 22 minutes or so. Jim's waiting up for me to upload this thing, and I've got that wonderful Wyoming internet. It's working wonders lately for us. But thanks for joining us for the PCPer mailbag. Sorry about the kernel time. I need to look that up. Maybe we'll answer it next week. We'll see what we can do. But with that, I'm Josh Walrath, and you guys have a great weekend.